I have a dream. I won't go on Shark Tank because I hate Mark Cuban when it comes to this stuff because he hates anything in this space. But I would love to go on Shark Tank and go, I'm looking for $0 investment for 10% of my company because I want to get it out there faster than I can do it.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Journey to Legacy podcast. Today, I actually have a different guest on than usual. If you've listened to some past episodes, I feature a lot of coaches and consultants and tech guys. Today, we're actually talking to, dare I say, an inventor in the medical space. He actually originally comes from a chemical engineering and an aerospace engineering background, having worked on a shuttle mission straight out of college. To today, he's helping to almost redefine the health and wellness space. Mr. Mark Fox, the founder of Resona Health, is going to teach you about PEMF technology, pulsed electromagnetic fields, and how it can help with everything from PTSD to migraines to Lyme disease. It's pretty interesting space. And so stay tuned. I'm super excited for you to hear all about it. Let's hop right on into the episode. Mark, thanks for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me. This will be fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm excited. Please kick us off. Tell everybody just a little bit about yourself.
My name is Mark Fox. So I started my professional career. I started out working on the Space Shuttle program on the solid rocket boosters. So I think I was there 16 years. My last job there was chief engineer on the solid rocket boosters. And I went to Parker Hannifin and we made flight hydraulic actuators for all the Boeing aircraft. And then anyone that can remember a zip drive, I went to iOmega. And it's one thing about a company is if you have a product that everyone in the world needs and nobody else has it, you can have monkeys running it and they still make money. And that's basically what this company was. It grew so fast. iOmega went from a couple 100,000 a year to 1.7 billion. And they just started hiring. They didn't have any good project managers, rational people, right? There are a bunch of marketers and tinkerers and stuff. And they actually built 1 million zip drives without a drawing.
What? What do you mean without a drawing?
No drawing. They just had mold tooling and they cut it up. They kept modifying it in the garage and they had, anyway, so that's a whole nother story. So I did that I ran their internet, which is back in 1998 when internet was just starting. And I was in charge of their call center, which I didn't know what a call center was. That concept I never knew when you called somebody, there was 200 people sitting there waiting to answer phones,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
But just to manage all that, I think our first year I was there, our phone bill was $33 million for the call center. So I'm like, what are people calling for? So, just kind of blocking and tackling some basic stuff, looking at Pareto charts. What's the number one reason they're calling? How do we knock that off so they could call and fix it without them calling us? That kind of thing, right? So
Nice.
and
Wow.
then I left there and I started teaching creative thinking. I wrote a book around creative thinking and I was doing keynote presentations and workshops with about half Fortune 500 companies and then smaller startup companies, just teaching them how to use creativity to run the business better. And then I moved to starting, I think, 10 to 12 different companies that were fast starts that didn't launch or you didn't get enough, you built the thing and then you learned a lot there of how to get it launched. And then, and I'll put it in this context is I'm associated with a thing called Wizard Academy. It's in Austin, Texas. It's one of the coolest places in the world of how to learn cool stuff fast about business. So we do 1 to 3 day classes. Whenever we're talking to a new business, actually we go, before you even care what the product is at all, go, what's your margins? And if you don't have 8 to 10x markup, quit. Because that's how much it's going to cost you to buy the noise. You got to make noise in the marketing. In the old days, you used to make it for $1, wholesale it for $2, and retail it for $4. That doesn't work in the internet world. There's just not enough. Zuckerberg is too greedy, right? He's charging too much money, and the ads cost too much for most people to run that. So that's what happened to some of my other products that I had was just not enough margin in there at a price point that the market would absorb to be able to make noise. And back then it wasn't as easy to make noise, right? I mean, you can do a lot easier now with everyone's got a YouTube channel and LinkedIn, right? And TikTok and influencers and all that. And a lot of that stuff didn't exist at the time. So, but the latest product, I think we might be profitable this year. I mean, I don't pay myself anything and I don't have any salary and I don't have any employees, but I actually have, 1.5 girls that help me with the shipping and the customer service piece of it. And then of course I have Fiverr gigs all over with IT people and marketing and that kind of stuff. But the company's me and the fish tank behind me. And then I got Gabby and Kelly, who Kelly just came on answering phones. I mean, this is non-tech, completely non-tech. Is the reason our company took off so fast. I'm the only PMF company that has a phone number. What? They all have email. There's no phone number and you can't talk to anybody. So the good news, bad news, I now have 10,000 people think I'm their private doctor. Okay. So that's, that I can't get up my cell phone. It actually just got 3 calls while you and I just started talking on it. It's like, so, but answering phones, and then we grew so fast that literally 6 weeks ago, I was like, okay, the lowest hanging fruit in the whole company is we get 20 phone calls a day that we don't answer because Gabby's too busy stuffing envelopes, shipping product, and answering emails. So sure. I hired a lady to answer phones. Great. It's really cool. I got it from hiremymom.com. It's a website, and it's mothers, stay-at-home mothers that want to work part-time. So she's working 8 hours a day, but she answers the phone like 4 of them. The rest of the time she's changing diapers and taking care of her kids. And it works great for everybody. So that was a super good, cool win. And I'm not sure I'm ever going to hire a man because the women are just nicer to angry people. I'm telling you, when 75-year-old guys call with ED, and they're screaming and yell, and where's my device? I go, you didn't even order it yet. We ship it the same day, but order it first, then you can get one. But anyway, yeah. So the women I'm trying to weed myself out of the customer service piece, although I still every day answer stuff for a couple hours so I can stay connected. Right.
No, I think that's great. That's something that you mentioned to me previously, but Mark, wow, how interesting, man. Going into engineering, working on the space shuttle, right? Corporate area. After that, running a call center, consulting, doing creative thinking workshops, and 12 different ventures to today working on Resona Health. So tell us just a little bit more specific about Resona and exactly what the product is, just for everybody that hasn't had a chance to read the description, or they sort of
it's Resona Health. It's short for resonance, and it's before I get into PEMF, I'm going to just explain something at a higher level because it puts it in better context. So nothing in the world happens without an energy exchange. You don't breathe oxygen, you don't eat food, you don't drive a car, you don't fall down and break your leg, you don't speak. None of that. Okay. You don't touch something and feel something without energy exchange. So these are frequencies and energy. It's putting energy in your body, and it can be electrical current. And a lot of people are familiar with a TENS unit, right? So this is actually 1,000 times less energy than a TENS unit, but you can transfer energy to your body with electricity, magnetic waves, light, sound, or vibration. Now, the reason I picked PEMF for a couple of reasons. One is it's much more convenient, so you don't have any wires on you, and it's therapy on the go. So you just wear the lanyard around your neck and you put it in your pocket and you forget about it, right? So that's one reason. The other reason is if you put a wire on somebody, the FDA is definitely going to make it a 510K cleared device, which is $2 or $3 million in 2 or 3 years, and they didn't want to go that route. But it can be delivered, like I said, with light, vibration, sound. MIT last year, I think it was last year before, discovered that you can reverse Alzheimer's with flickering light at 40 hertz and reduce plaque in the brain. And I've talked to him and I said, it's not just 40 hertz. There's more to it. So I've been trying to school him a little bit on that. But there's, so energy can be transferred that way. Magnetic therapy, static magnets has been around for 3,500 years. I mean, that's like the first published stuff. It's been around forever. It was called lodestones at the time.
Magnets.
And the theory is there are rocks on the surface of the earth that got hit by lightning. That's how they get magnetized. Okay. About 100 years ago, 120 years ago, PEMF, so pulsed electromagnetic fields, were discovered to be 100 times or more therapeutic than static magnets. So back in the early 1900s, there was So if you think about it this way, your body is electrical, chemical, and mechanical, right? So to forget any one of those is stupid, right? Because your body operates with all three. However, 1910, this report came out, and then in 1934, J.P. Morgan and Carnegie, because J.P. Morgan at the time owned all of the oil in the world, right? He owned Standard Oil. He figured out how to make drugs out of oil.
Okay.
And him and Carnegie managed all the medical certificates and the university funding for any medical research. They own the world, right?
Sure.
So they said, all right, 1934, they go, it was called the Flexner Report that came out in 1910, but everyone ignored it until 34. But until JP Morgan, those guys came on. Well, they said, if you're doing anything but drugs and surgery, cutting people and chemicals, we're going to pull your license and your money and all that. So only in America, all the electrical research got scrapped and people quit. So these frequencies, they bubbled back up from old machines that were found and some old research that was found, but like literally where these came from was a card that said 40 hertz inflammation, 127 hertz vitality or whatever. And a chiropractor started playing with those frequencies. They're actually in frequency pairs. So everyone goes, what frequency is it? Well, it's not. It's between 1 and 1,000 hertz. And there's two frequencies going at the same time. And it changes every 1 to 4 minutes. And it's different for every protocol. So if you think about it as two frequencies as a chord on a guitar, the protocols are songs. Okay. So each song is different. PTSD is the most complex one because it's in every part of your body and you have to systematically target each thing. So it's actually like 76 different frequency pairs it goes through in 2.5 hours. Now, the average protocol is like 40 minutes. They're 30 minutes to 2 hours and 40 minutes. Excuse me. The average is about 40. And there's like 59 different protocols on there. So that's what it is. It's putting, and how it actually works, nobody knows. And everyone rolls their eyes when you say it. I'm like, hold on. Nobody knows how aspirin works either, or any drug in the world. None. Okay. You have theories on how they work, but nobody's ever proven it. All right. Here's what we do know with PEMF. And by the way, it is the Earth's heartbeat. So the Earth is putting out PEMF at 7.83 hertz, 20.1, and 14.3. So I'll show it to you real fast. So it's not some voodoo thing. You're engulfed in it right now. If you see that white line, that is the Earth's heartbeat right now. That's 7.83 hertz, and I'm just measuring the background noise of the Earth. Okay, so it's not weird new voodoo, but it's more it's targeted PMF to do the things that I just said. So it's a long answer to your question, but it's an energy exchange. The two things that we do know is the cells in your body have an electrical charge like a car battery, and when the voltage gets low, you get sick. So it recharges your cell's battery. And then adenosine triphosphate, I always can't pronounce that correct. It's ATP. It's the number one chemical that your body, your cells use for food, for energy. So it increases ATP up to 500%. So it's recharging your cell's batteries. It's increasing the food for your cells so your body can do what it does best, is heal itself. That's that part we do know. And then we can go to deep dive if we wanted to of all the other theories of what it's actually doing, but that's the highest level how it actually works.
Okay, gotcha. So, Resona, basically you developed this little, it looks like a little mini iPod called the Vibe, right? That's putting out pulsed electromagnetic field, PEMF, that is essentially recharging cells and doing more food production for cells to help your body heal itself, essentially for, it sounds like almost everything.
There's not everything. There's a lot on there, and there's certain things I can't say because the SUVs will show up at the front door. The CO word, okay, which is you even mention that, and we have a solution for it. I just can't tell people really what it is. So it's like you can go figure out which one might be the right match. But there's 59 protocols on there. 5 of them are brainwave protocols: alpha, theta, beta, delta, gamma, and those 5 can be repurposed for 70 other conditions. And so we have both those lists online and can go see them all. But just to highlight it, the probably one of the number one things is PTSD and trauma, because I think we have the largest clinical trial with PMF and PTSD in the world. And we have a 98% success rate, which I don't even believe, but the data is real. I mean, it's that powerful. The second one is anxiety, which is the most common ailment for human beings in every culture, right? And then sleep and back pain and neck pain and a whole bunch of others, fibromyalgia, neuropathy. We're running studies, just so you know, right now, independent studies with a whole nother organization on lowering blood sugar, specifically for type 2D. I can't say the word either, type 2D. And we'll clarify right here. I don't diagnose, treat, or cure anything. I'm not a doctor. Don't even play one on TV. I'm a rocket scientist. Okay. So you got to make that disclaimer. But we're running studies on that. And one of the more exciting ones, and I stayed away from it for a while because I didn't understand it. And I'm not a doctor, but I've been researching it now for enough years, the vagus nerve. So vagus nerve toning or stimulation. So if listeners don't know, it's connected to your brain, goes down both sides of your neck, it clusters in your chest, and then it goes throughout the whole body and ties to every organ, and it regulates pretty much everything. Your heart rate variability, your blood pressure, your pulse, your mood, your fight or flight, all of that. So we're doing a lot of research on one of our competitors slash colleagues, because he's one of the good guys that I talk to a lot. We don't fight with each other. They did the largest vagus nerve study and PMF in the world. I think it was 480 people last year. And so we know the frequencies that work correctly. So we're using the vibe for that as well as vagus nerve toning. But I wish I didn't care about all the Facebook haters, but I do take it personally. So I try my hardest to get as much data as we can to show this is real. I had a doctor tell me the other day on a podcast, I guess, he said, Mark, PMF is not on trial. If somebody questions PMF being real, they're ignorant and they didn't go research it, because there's 35,000 published papers on this. NASA's been using it since 1970s. In fact, you can't be on the space station or we'll never go to Mars if you didn't have PMF because of bone density loss, right? So it brings back bone density. So I forgot what you even asked me. I'm talking too much. I'll shut up for a minute.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, you're giving a pretty amazing breakdown here, right? And essentially of what you all are up to, and right, and the benefits that you're providing. What's super interesting to me, and maybe we'll do a little bit of a rewind here and start to tell your story, is Mark, how did you even get into this space? You just said it yourself. You're not a doctor. You don't pretend to be one, yet you are selling a device that has, I mean, the reviews and testimonials, the stories are speaking for themselves, how much you're helping people with medical conditions. How did you get into the space?
Well, here's some irony. So this thing 20 something years ago couldn't come up the stairs, and she's just crying. Yeah, she's my dog. She's crying. And, flip the coin and say, hey, one of us is not going to work today. Got to take her to the vet. So she had severe arthritis in her spine. And when I said ironically, because I haven't seen him in years, this doctor, he's the most forward-thinking veterinarian I know. His name's Dr. Oz Jackson. He's sitting right over here. He came to visit me yesterday from Texas, and I haven't seen him in years. He said, hey, there's this lady that has this magic machine that will reverse arthritis. So we got ready to take her there. And then she got sick really fast, and it was all the way 2 states away. So we never got to do it. But that was the spark that I knew about it for 26 years now, 27.
This magic machine was the actual PMF machine.
It is a PMF machine with wires and big knobs on it, and an older machine that she found in a practice that she bought, right? Oh, wow. So what really sparked me is I was, I wasn't working it full time. I was doing other jobs, but I was just thinking about it and researching and going to some of the classes and studying it. And what I learned and what pissed me off the most was I saw what it could do for PTSD at the time, specifically military veterans or first responders. Now it's civilians too, but I saw what it was doing for PTSD, but it was being held hostage in a clinical environment with this doctor where you had to pay her a bunch of money and she has her machine and you keep visiting her. And I'm like, there's got to be a way to make a affordable, pocket-sized one of these things. And I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm granting myself an electrical engineering degree after this journey because coils piled up to the roof over. I was so naive. I started off with, I'll just put a coil on there, and a little Bluetooth chip and a battery and a printed circuit board. It can't be hard. Well, they all caught on fire. I have 4 different engineers, can't get this thing designed. What it actually ends up being, which is unique, is it's actually an MP3 player, but it doesn't have a speaker. I'll show you.
Right.
So yeah, and all the protocols are songs. They're MP3s. So I build them, the frequencies, on a music synthesizer. And I'm not a musician. I don't know anything. I can't play anything. Okay. But somebody showed me how to use a synthesizer. So you just put the frequencies in, you make an MP3 out of it, and the printed circuit board is running songs. They're the protocols. Now, the coils are right here, which if I took those out and put a speaker in, you'd hear it go, you'd hear the frequencies. So that's what it really is. It's an MP3 player that your body's listening to, not your ears. So that's a way to look at it, is your body's hearing that energy and absorbing it. So yeah, I went full circle from complicated designs to, wait a minute, I'm going to be making MP3s anyway. So I redirected the engineering team that said, it's a music player, guys, just start. So what I actually did, I fired all the engineers and I hired a Bluetooth speaker company.
No way.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's what I wanted was Bluetooth speaker. Now I've decided to get rid of the Bluetooth because half the world is too dumb to use Bluetooth. It's unbelievable. Because when I get a phone call or a text, it interrupts and stops the play and all that. So this one has no Bluetooth, no connection, complete standalone. You turn it on, you scroll alphabetically the one you want, hit play, and put it in your pocket. So I got rid of the Bluetooth part of it, but I still have the Bluetooth speaker guys manufacturing it. And I was just telling, his name's Oz Jackson. I mentioned that. I was telling him last night, this company has probably spent between $5 and $10 million in development for almost nothing for me, because they see the potential of therapy device, right? They make Bluetooth speakers. They don't make medical devices. And it's not a medical device, but it's in that realm of health and wellness. And so, yeah, they're super. I talked to the engineer on Skype. Well, we text actually, because of voice, the accents are too bad, but we go, and it's what a cool world we live in now. The amount of technical stuff that I'm describing, we're troubleshooting an issue right now, blah, 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 with the battery over voltage and stuff. And the fact that you can just go back and forth on Skype, and it's only like 1 out of every 500 messages I send him that something got lost in translation. He gets it, and I understand what he's saying. So that's great. So yeah, if I had to do that and pay for all that development, I never could have done it. But these guys have an engineering team full time that's working on this because they're trying to get into space, which we are, right? We're in this space now, and I think, the fastest growing PMF company in the world. I can't prove that, but just guessing at the numbers month over month, we probably.
It sounds like, it sounds like you sort of not stumbled upon a really great team or partnership to help develop this, but in essence, you did. And so from your dog suffering from cancer or these other diseases, and you hearing somebody telling you, I don't know if it was Dr. Oz over there, telling you actually about this magical device. Unfortunately, you guys didn't make to it. You didn't get your dog there in time, but that's what planted the seed. And then it upset you that this was being held hostage in just a clinic. Right. It wasn't being given to the rest of the world. Mark, you started talking about that you're not an engineer. You had these coils, you started building it, and then you figured out that needs to be essentially an MP3 player. You weren't educated in any of this.
No, I'm an engineer. I'm a chemical engineer.
You're an engineer. Okay. Yes, that's that piece of the puzzle. But it seems like there's so many different steps and pieces that you didn't know much about. And I think most people are afraid to even go learn something new, to even read a book or try a new hobby. I like to talk a lot about mindset, motivation. Why? How did you motivate yourself to keep going, to learn these new things, to keep trying different things, to fire engineering teams, get a Bluetooth team? Where's the motivation? How do you do it?
It's a super good question. I don't have a good answer for it. In fact, Oz and I were discussing that last night over a glass of wine. He's like, well, why the hell am I getting up in the morning and doing this? Because I don't pay myself anything. I'm not making any money yet. But the answer, I think, is because I'm making a difference. And these are real people. I told the two ladies that that are working for me now is part of this job is going to be so satisfying. It's unbelievable, but get ready, because there's some people call you up and say, I've been tortured, right? I've been kidnapped. My husband beat me up. You're going to go through all kinds of real human trauma. It's not that bullshit on TV, right? It's a sitcom thing, right? Or all these, wives of New York or whatever. This is real people that stuff's happened to them and they can't find. Everyone that comes to us, almost everyone, is either suffering from physical or mental pain, and it's usually both long term, and nobody else can help them. The amount of people that we have that have fibromyalgia where their doctor told them it's in your head, there's nothing we can do about it, quit whining. No, it's unbelievable. Another example, just speaking out loud right there while I was talking. I don't know what Lyme disease is. I've heard of it. I don't know anything about it 2 years ago, right? I've had 500 people contact me and say, what do I do for Lyme? Because they don't have an answer and the doctors don't have an answer. And I'm like, I don't know anything about it. So I've been studying that. So it's to answer your question really, as I'm very curious. Oz and I had this conversation last night. My friends all go, you like want to live forever? I go, because I want to see what happens next, right? Nice. I don't want to live forever, but I want to see what happens next. It's just interesting. So I did all this research and found out Lyme at 1 to 4 hertz, you can kill it. It's a bacteria. So you can kill it at 1 to 4 hertz. So several Lyme Facebook group people contacted me and I said, okay, let's do a study. So we ran 1 to 4 hertz. Here's the good news, bad news. Good news is it worked on 100% of the people. The bad news is when you kill a Lyme bacteria, it's a mean, nasty little son of a bitch and it spits poison. That's its defense mechanism. So it makes you sick as hell. Everybody got sick. So I'm like, so they don't want to do it again, right? Because you're like, I feel worse than I did before. So what we're doing right now is, again, Oz and I talking last night, I said, here's what I'm explaining. This is the first time he's heard it, right? Last night, I'm like, okay, run the 1 to 4 hertz at a lower power, bring it down to 4 or 5, then run liver support to try and clean up the toxins. Then go back, run it again, then liver, and alternate it. He goes, you need to have, I'm going to say liposoidal vitamin C. I go, what the hell is that? He goes, we went on Amazon, just bought a whole bunch of them this morning. He goes, you need that into that regime. So if we come up with the right formula for that, we may have help, can't treat, diagnose, cure anything, but help people with Lyme disease. It's awful. You will cry if you sit on a Zoom call with these people. It is awful, long-term, miserable. They haven't slept in 20 years. People have had it that long. They're in so much pain and misery. So that part's super fun, right? And what I said with the vagus nerve right now is like, we're running studies. Here's why I hired a doctor. I go, I know heart rate variability. If it increases, that's the best marker that we can have. And he goes, which heart rate variability? I go, what do you mean? He goes, there's like 9 different ways to measure it. And I'm like, okay, you're hired. He's an expert. I'm like, I never heard of that. That's the first person ever said that. So we're looking at blood flow going to the brain, trying to, does the brain go from red to green, and trying to get all these. I mean, the gold standard in health is still the archaic AVS scale, audio vision, or AVS. I think it's the 1 to 10 chart, right? That says I walk in pain, I go, I'm a 9, I'm the guy crying, and I left is a 3. And then you go do all this just statistical analysis around 9 versus 3 and not necessarily biomarkers. Now, that's great data, but we're trying to supplement it with biomarkers. So I learned the hard way with dogs. I made an assumption that, so the largest no-kill shelter is actually here in Florida. It's down in Boca Raton. There's 850 dogs in this place, right? And so they potentially all have PTSD because they're in jail and they didn't do anything wrong. So I made an assumption that cortisol would come down if the PTSD came down. It's not true. So in dogs and humans both, if you have PTSD, your cortisol is already low. So I wasted a bunch of time and money because I made an assumption that wasn't correct. Okay. I now know that heart rate variability, the right one, is the absolute best marker to see an improvement in trauma and PTSD. If heart rate variability goes up, you're healthier. And the Veterans Administration, that is the main marker that they use for all studies and any kind of devices that they're testing, that is heart rate variability. So we're trying to mix in a lot of biomarker stuff that we can afford. But,
Yeah.
and here's one that's sickening and sad. Okay. I was at a biohacking conference in Dallas in the summer, and I was leaving, and it's like actually the last booth, the woman caught my eye. I'm like, I wonder what they're selling. So I go over there and I have a brand new test for mitochondria health. So you can measure at the mitochondria level if you're improving or not. So it's a very expensive test. I was going to be part of their group. I got into it. We're going to do it. And then the FDA goes, if you show you're changing metabolism, then it's a medical device and you got to do all the 510. I'm like, I said, so the FDA is going to control meditation and breathing now and singing. Those all change your metabolism, right? When you breathe or you sing or you meditate, your metabolism
Exercise,
changes.
anything.
Exercise. I said, you can't control all of that. And it's like, so that's why I'm not doing the tests, because they already know I'm looking at mitochondria testing. I'm like, I'm just not going to do it because it's going to show it works. I know it. So
And then give the FDA more power to actually come after you.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Wow. So you're just a genuinely curious guy. You're just sort of learning as you go, huh? And I said
Yeah.
that's why you hired this doctor, because you had an idea, hypothesis, and then he gave you more knowledge just from your genuine curiosity. It came about, and now the same thing with this mitochondria test, and you're just trying to figure out these different biomarkers to actually make sure that you're helping, not just on a scale of how much pain do you have? 9. Okay, let's try something random. How much pain do you have now? A 3. Great, it worked. You're actually taking a little bit more seriously. Mark,
Part of it,
let's rewind just a quick second, because I
sure.
talk to almost everybody that's an entrepreneur, right? You told me earlier, after college, right? You went and worked on the Space Shuttle program. Entrepreneurship didn't really quote unquote exist, or it wasn't talked about, it wasn't
Right.
educated. How did you get out of the corporate world actually into, I don't know, was it first writing your book? What was your first entrepreneurial venture, and how did you get into that?
Actually, the step process was, how did I get out of the aerospace industry was not what you'd think. I got offered a really big promotion, and I'm like, I already seen this picture. I know this movie. If I take that job, I will never do anything else with my career. You're stuck, right? Because
Golden
you're at
handcuffs.
a level of pay and responsibility that you can't get out. So that's when I pulled the trigger and went to Parker Hannifin, which wasn't much different than government. So then I went to IMA, right? And switched to computer stuff, which was completely different. So that's kind of the process. I got to teach myself the internet for 6 years. So that was fantastic. And I just learned a lot about customer service and that kind of thing. But I don't want to say too many bad things about that company, because there's just some sleazy stuff they were doing that just made you sick. And it's like, that was one of my hard decisions, because I was making really good money. And I'm like, but I hate going to work every day because I just don't like the politics of the CEO sleeping with the marketing director. It's just all this.
Oh man.
I was like, I don't want to, this is ugly. I don't like any of this. Right. So that, that's why I quit. I just quit one day and then jumped into creativity and said, I've always been interested in that. So then just started studying that. And then, like we talked, started a bunch of different businesses. Part of it is my anti-Alzheimer's plan. Is I wake up every morning and I got to think about stuff and do things and create new
Nice.
things. Like today, we're designing. I don't know what our customers do, but when they'll shove every kind of charger imaginable in here to try and break this thing, and they can break them. Right? They do. So now we're designing a brand new AC adapter that has voltage protection and stuff on it, and we're going to tell them, use the one with the, just in the last hour. He's like, the engineer goes, you want to put a logo on it? I go, yes. That way I can say, don't use any charger, but the one that has our logo, because you're going to break something. I mean, they'll go, here's what we do. It's like, shoot me a video, do a condition inspection, shoot me a video. I'm like, I'm using the cable you gave me. And then they'll show me it's a blue cable jammed in there. I'm like, ours is white. Okay. We don't have any blue cables. So that's not the one we gave you, but you can't stop people. You know what an RCA cable is? It used to go back of a TV. It was like a male with a female phone. Somebody jammed that into a USB-C, sent me a picture. There's the red one sticking, and the other two RCA cables are hanging off the side. I'm like, you really?
This is interesting, right? People are crazy. I asked you pre-show about what's a key lesson that you've learned. You said the power of simplicity is unmatched. Is that something that you learned now with Resona, or have you learned that over time? What's the importance for other entrepreneurs?
It's one of these 40 lenses of Triz, which I teach in creative thinking. It is taking out, right? What can you take out of it to make it more simple and easy to use? The first prototype, we talked about this before the show, was a Bluetooth connection. And people, half the world can't handle an app and a Bluetooth. And because it's an audio plane, when you get an audible sound for your text or your phone call, it cuts the program off and then they don't know it's stopped. So then when you dump the call, it didn't restart. So that and familiarity is, it looks like the original iPad on purpose. And anyone that's old enough, you're going to laugh at this one because nobody knows this until I tell them like this, is, get there. The colors on the frequency bars, is it in focus?
Yep, I can see them. Red, yellow, green, blue.
They're the same colors as a tricorder on Star Trek that Bones had when he goes, Star Trek. So I purposely put those same colors in for familiarity, right? To make people familiar with it. And there's hundreds of stories like that of taking things out. So for example, Bose, this is actually adding one, but Bose, when they first came out with the small speakers that were super awesome, people would pick them up off the shelf and they weighed too light. So people wouldn't buy it. They go, well, this can't be good. So they ended up putting sandbags inside of them. So they felt heavier when you picked them up. Anyone can remember the old days of, you first had a cell phone, it had pullable antenna, and then it had a little stub antenna. Do you know that stub antenna was not real?
Oh, no way.
The antenna was inside. They just did that for familiarity to get people to transfer to what we have today, right? Because nobody thought, the phone used to come around your mouth. Nobody thought you could ever talk to a flat thing, right? So you had to, there's hundreds of examples like that of just stepping people into it because they can't take that much change mentally, right? So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but yeah, just things like that are just really interesting.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, so many people can use these examples for their businesses, right? The power of simplicity. And then also you had mentioned meeting people where they're at, right? These are perfect examples. The first cell phone had this long antenna. That's where people are at, okay? So now let's make it a little smaller, right? We're going to try and simplify it, but you have to meet people where they're at, what they're ready for, and then progress them along the way. And like that's in whatever business it might be.
Yeah, the phrase I use for meet people where they're at is crawl into their cage, right? You've got to speak the language of their speaking. So I'll give you a good example with the creative thinking. It's like I was giving a presentation to GM, okay, on a call. And it's like, I'm trying to sell my services. And like, it's a creative thinking class, blah, 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 blah. And the guy's quote was, I don't want my people making goddamn paper airplanes. I'm like, okay. So I have this other class. I used every acronym that was of the time, right? It uses TCM, SIG. I just started naming all this different things. And he slams his hand on the table and he goes, why the hell did you waste my time to start with? That's exactly what we need. And they hired me for that. It's the exact same class, the exact same slides. One's blue and one's brown, but it's the exact same material. I just packaged it differently, right? Right in the middle of the call, I was like, he doesn't want me to say creative thinking. So I'm going to say TQM, all the acronyms at the time, total quality management and Six Sigma. I mentioned all the things and how it's into this course. And he goes, yeah, that's what we need. I was like, okay. So simplicity, and I'll show you this real quick because my wife thinks this is the dumbest invention I've ever had, and it's not. So there's an app. I just showed it to you with the Earth's heartbeat, right? So let me show you real quick. So find the app again if it's running. Okay, so there it is running again. The other colors are X, Y, Z. So the coils are right here, and the magnetometer on most people's phones right about there. So I'm just go like this near the top. See what it does.
Oh wow, huge.
Yeah. Unfortunately, half the world can't download an app and read this thing, right? So it's like, okay, so this is the invention I came up with. Magnetic field tester has a magnet in a plastic tube. You stick it like that.
There you go. Oh wow, bouncing around, levitating.
So you can see it and hear it. I didn't plan on it being used this way, but it is now our number one reason that we don't get a return. Because customers go, mine's broken, I need a new one. I was like, wait a minute. I guarantee you have the power. As soon as they describe it, it's like, show me the power level. right there, the 10.
Nice.
And they'll go, mine doesn't have a power level. Like, and what they do is, people won't read the instructions. They go like this, they turn the power level down. You're like, I guarantee the power level is turned down. No, I didn't do that. I'm like, that's the only way this doesn't work. Okay. So then they send me a picture, send me a video. Mine is not, my power level's at 10. Then finally they'll go, never mind. Right. Because they finally look at it and I don't know who turned this down. You did. Because you weren't paying attention. You clicked. So that little thing has saved so many returns where people go, it's defective. It's broken. I've been using it for a year. It's not broken. You turn the power level down.
And
We've even contemplated, Gabby goes, just get rid of the power level. I'm like, I can't, because I'd have to redesign the whole thing, which I could do. But about 3 to 6% of the population can't handle it at 10. Even though it's a tiny device, it's putting out 9 Gauss, which is quite a bit, relatively speaking, for PEMF. So some people, if you're energy sensitive, and I was telling Oz again last night, this is a perfect example. If somebody's complaining about energy sensitivity, I go, can you see auras and colors around people's heads? And they're like, how did you know that? Because that's the best indicator of whether you're energy sensitive.
Wow.
Whether you see auras. And it's shocking how many people do. I don't.
Really?
It's shocking to many people. And most people, like in a Zoom call, that you can see by their eyes, right, if they're telling the truth or not, but they don't ever tell anyone because they don't want people to think they're weird.
Sure, of course.
So there's a whole lot more people to see auras than
I'm not energy sensitive. Then I can tell you that. Mark, unfortunately, we're running out of time. But with the show, right, Journey to Legacy, you've had such an interesting journey. I mean, there's so many. You said there's at least 12 other ventures that we could have talked about. So we'll maybe have to talk about in the future.
Okay.
But what's interesting is that you said that you've spent so much time on this business, invested a lot. You're not making money yet. You keep doing it. I think that goes along pretty nicely with the theme of the show, which is legacy. And so I'm curious, you've been through a lot of different industries, you've done a lot of different things, made a lot of money, yet you keep going. You're in a new project. Talk to me a little bit about what legacy means to you and what you're projecting for your future.
Here's my biggest frustration is I'm 63 years old. My runway is not long enough to make the impact I want to. So I'm trying to find more joint ventures and people that can get the reach. I say we have a 98% success rate with PTSD. I have these at the Pentagon. They're not buying them yet. They're evaluating them, but we had a 2-star general say, if this really works for PTSD, and it does, they just need to do their own study. He goes, every military person should have it as standard issue.
Wow.
Something like that. I have a dream. I won't go on Shark Tank because I hate Mark Cuban when it comes to this stuff because he hates anything in this space. But I would love to go on Shark Tank and go, I'm looking for $0 investment for 10% of my company because I want to get it out there faster than I can do it. Right. So, and the other thing, and here's my sinister plan. Okay. It's for people and pets. So dogs, cats, and horses. The dog thing is the most exciting to me, and horses, because we're getting so much traction with horses. It's looks like this, and it has a long strap that's an elastic strap, and it goes on the horse's neck on their vagus nerve. Okay. So arthritis, relax and balance, those type of things. I mean, I have, customers talk to me about horses and stuff. They're like, Mark, if I can ride my horse 2 years longer than normal, the answer, the theme is you can charge anything you want for this damn thing. Because think about a horse, right? Is you ride them for a while and then they get too old, you can't ride them, but you can't kill them. And you have them for 15, 20 more years of taking care of them and stalls and all the costs. So if you can relieve their pain, so the horses have a better life. So dogs, cats, and horses, you're going to laugh. Yes, I am testing it on a giraffe.
Oh, that's great. I don't laugh at all. If you didn't know, I'm from South Africa actually, and so giraffes have a special place in my heart.
We just went. We took another couple with us in October. I went to Africa for the first time. We went for 10 days. It was super fun.
Oh, that's awesome, Mark. So it sounds like, I mean, you said you feel like you don't have a long enough runway, but you're trying to make a huge difference. You're trying to build these partnerships to just go faster. The Shark Tank example, you're just looking for partners to make a bigger impact faster and get this technology out there, which is absolutely amazing. And so for anybody listening, I mean, where can they go to learn more about you? And then if you have any thoughts, comments, please.
Just the one thing I want, 2 things. There's a comedian in the 70s named Rich Hall, and he had a thing called Sniglets. and it's words that aren't in the dictionary but should be. And one of them was boson. Boson is boson and ozone combined. It's an invisible gas that surrounds people that stops new ideas from getting in. Okay, so get rid of your boson, number one. Along those same lines, Facebook haters and scam art. I get called Hitler, death threats, all kinds of stuff. It's like, okay, I wrote an article called, it's awful, the 100 top scams of all time. Okay, then I listed DNA sequencing, antibiotics, CRISPR, right, MRIs, all of these things that were 100% impossible until they weren't. There's if any of your listeners spent 5 minutes researching an MRI or how it works, there's 7 pieces of magic. None of them should work in an MRI, but yet we do 1 million of them a year. And everyone looks at a picture. It is bizarre how an MRI. So you just look at that list of, that was complete magic. I mean, if you had one of these on a Mayflower, what would people say? Right? And what is that thing? It talks to this and does this, and there's a person in here, right? And it's like, so. And it's getting better. Man on the street, if you went with a microphone and said, hey, have you ever heard of PEMF? It's going to be 1 out of 20 people, but it's maybe 2 now. So more and more have heard of a mat and those technology. Horse people, almost every horse owner knows about it because of a machine called the MagnaWave, which is a $20,000 big machine where the vet comes out with these big rings. Wow. Treats it. So more and more people are learning about it. Because, as I said, most people come to it because they can't find another solution. Right? Yeah. Their long-term mental, physical pain and whatever the side effects of the drugs are on they don't like, or the doctor don't have anything for them. Right? It's like, we don't know what to do for that. So,
man, your boson. Everybody get rid of your boson. Be open to new things. Right? Some stuff we can't exactly explain. It sounds like a lot of things in the medical field. That doesn't mean that they don't.
Let me give one quick example there. So when doctors attack me about you got to explain mechanism of action, exactly how it works, and blah, blah, blah. I go, hey, do you have a microwave oven? They go, what? Have you ever heated a slice of pizza in a microwave oven? Yeah. I go, how does that work? And they go, oh, now I know it's a trick question. So they kind of go, oh, think of like the radiation. I said, yeah. So here's the theory, that you're hitting it with an exact frequency that resonates with a water molecule that makes the water molecule spin on its own axis. It's a rotational energy of a water molecule. And that spinning causes friction. Nobody in the world has ever seen a picture or a video of a spinning water molecule, ever. But every house has a microwave oven. We don't know how they work. We got theories that it's spinning water molecules, but nobody's ever proven it, ever. Because we don't have the technology to see a spinning water molecule. So shut up with your boson, go try it, right? And that's why we have money back guarantee. It's not going to work for everyone, but we have way over 90% success rate with most of the protocols. So try it.
Mark, that's awesome. You're making a huge difference. You're helping tons and tons of people. And I'm just excited to follow the story. And so thanks for being here today. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It was great.
And that's a wrap, everybody. What did you think of Mr. Mark Fox of Resona Health? Talk about a wealth of knowledge coming out of essentially aerospace engineering. 12 other ventures. One of them is a women's clothing company. Curiosity is my biggest takeaway here. Mark is simply curious to learn more, to keep moving forward, to help others. Now he's helping so many people. I mean, talk about PTSD. He's busy talking to the Pentagon about potentially having a vibe standard issued to every military personnel in the entire world that will ever exist, all because of curiosity. So that's my challenge for you for today, for this week. Be genuinely curious. Go out, learn more things. You never know where it's going to take you. And if you're looking for help, learning more things, making a bigger difference, making a bigger impact, I want to invite you to come check out the Journey to Legacy community. Find us over at journeytolegacy.org. We're a mastermind group that we're helping each other to grow mentally, physically, financially, and to leave meaningful impact and legacies on this world. Check us out over at journeytolegacy.org. Until next time, I'm your host, Wayne Veldsman. I'll see you soon.